After the car crash gave her amnesia, Ava forgot me. She made a big show of pursuing the boy who saved her. She sent him gifts, set off fireworks for him, and did all the things with him that we had once done together. My friends all said she'd regret it when she remembered. Ava just scoffed. My taste isn't that bad. Later, I finally gave up. But she came running to me, stumbling as she pleaded, "I remember everything. I was wrong, please forgive me." I only asked her one question. "When did you remember?" The car stopped at the hospital entrance just as a downpour started. In the few hundred yards to the door, I was soaked to the bone. To make matters worse, I missed an elevator. When I finally appeared outside Ava's room, I was out of breath and a total mess. A group of people was already waiting outside the room. When they saw me, they all had strange looks on their faces. I didn't have time to worry about it, I just ducked my head and rushed inside. Ava's childhood friend, Jax, grabbed my arm. "Leo," he said, seeming to choose his words carefully, "Ava's injuries are pretty serious. You need to be prepared." I didn't have the patience for his nonsense and just gave him a random nod. A month ago, rushing back to celebrate my birthday, Ava was driving through a storm at night when her car went off a cliff into the ocean. The rescue team searched for a week and only found her car. Everyone thought the odds were against her. I refused to believe it. I took a leave of absence and went down with the rescue team, searching for her again and again. I'd been preparing myself ever since. As long as she was alive, no matter what happened to her, I would stay by her side forever. At that thought, I pulled some tissues from my bag and carefully wiped the water from my hair. I shouldn't make her worry. If Ava saw that I'd been caught in the rain, who knows how long she'd nag me. Probably just like all the other times. She'd lecture me about not taking care of myself while watching me like a hawk until I finished a whole bowl of ginger soup. Then she'd have to put on a pout, pretending to be mad until I gave her a few kisses to make up for it. A lump formed in my throat. My eyes almost started to burn again. I took a deep breath. Bypassing Jax, I reached out to push the door open. Outside the window, the storm raged under a dark, heavy sky. Fat raindrops splattered against the glass, leaving winding trails of water. The room was quiet. Ava was sitting up in bed, propped against the headboard and wearing an oversized hospital gown. The part of her arm that was visible was so thin her bones were showing, the bones of her wrist looking like they were about to break through her skin. But still, other than being far too thin, she didn't seem to have any major external injuries. "Ava, you scared me to death." My nose tingled again. I forced back the tears and curved my lips into a smile. "I'll let it slide this time. I forgive you." Ava listened quietly the whole time. Her expression was unreadable. Her dark eyes were fixed on me. It was a look I had never seen before. My heart skipped a beat. I subconsciously took a step forward. "Ava, what's wrong? Who are you?" She spoke at the exact same time, her voice cold. The impatience and indifference in her tone froze me to the spot. "Stop joking around." I started to panic. "Who let you in? Where's Ethan?" She studied me as if sizing me up. Her brow furrowed. The next moment, she suddenly curled up, clutching her head tightly as if enduring immense pain. "Ava!" I screamed in terror, but she seemed to have been triggered, frantically throwing whatever was at hand. Everything happening before me was beyond my comprehension. I was frozen in place as if under a spell. I watched, paralyzed, as a thermos flew toward me. A sharp pain registered on my temple a moment later. It was followed by a faint itching sensation. A warm, wet liquid trickled down my forehead. All the sound in the world disappeared, until someone shoved me hard out of the way. He threw himself toward Ava, his face frantic, and slammed the call button by the bed. He wrapped his arms tightly around her, patting her back gently. Ava, who had been so agitated just a second before, slowly began to calm down under his soothing touch. She buried her head in his neck and whimpered, "I woke up and you weren't here. So, that's the situation." Jax sat beside me, cautiously watching my expression. I stared blankly at my knees. A bandage was wrapped around one of them. I slipped on the stairs, took 2 stitches. Compared to the injury on my knee, The gash Ava had given me on my forehead was nothing. These were all injuries I'd gotten because of Ava. I was keeping a tally in my head. When she remembered, I was going to settle every single score with her. Ava's just sick right now. It'll be fine once she remembers. Leo, can you understand that? No. I couldn't understand why the Ava who used to have eyes only for me had suddenly forgotten everything. The doctor said she had suffered a severe blow to the head and had been deprived of oxygen for a long time. A hematoma was pressing on a nerve, causing amnesia. The boy who had held and comforted her was named Ethan. Apparently, he was the one who had saved Ava from the ocean. He was also the one who brought her to a local hospital, barely saving her life. Ava had been unconscious for a month. When she woke up, she didn't remember anything. She didn't remember who I was. She didn't even remember who she was. As if she were imprinting, she only trusted Ethan, only allowed Ethan near her. The doctor said that once her condition stabilizes, she can have surgery, and there's a chance she'll regain her memory. Jax tried to comfort me. You have to have faith in Ava. She could forget anyone, but she could never forget you. I managed to force a smile, but I couldn't stop replaying the image of them embracing in the hospital room. Ava recovered quickly. In just a month, her sickly pale face gradually regained its color. The hospital gown no longer looked so empty on her, but her memory never returned. I went to see her a few times. Ava's attitude went from coldly telling me to get lost to eventually just acting like I wasn't even there. She just forgot, I told myself. Maybe if I told her more stories about our past, she would remember. I walked toward her room, full of hope and carrying a food container. Ava used to love my cooking, but I was always busy with work and found it a hassle, so I rarely made anything for her. The moment I stepped through the door, I froze. Ava was leaning against the headboard, her gaze glued to Ethan. I don't know what was said, but it made him laugh and playfully tap the back of her hand. She caught his hand, squeezed his fingertips, and then intertwined their fingers. My eyes burned, and my vision instantly blurred. Ava had very slender hands, with long fingers and distinct knuckles. I was always jealous that her hands were more beautiful than mine. After she found out, she would playfully squeeze my fingertips or slip her hand into my palm whenever she got the chance. She'd even argue, with perfect seriousness, that it was the only way to get my attention. It was our little secret signal, and now she was sharing it openly with someone else. Ava's gaze swept past me, and she paused for a moment. Ethan waved me in. I silently placed the food container on the bedside table. Smells good. Ethan enthusiastically ladled out a bowl of soup and handed it to Ava. Try it. I don't eat anything he makes. Ava frowned and pulled away, her tone full of disgust. Ethan shot her a disapproving look. Ava pouted but reluctantly took the bowl. It's better than yours, Ava commented flatly. Ethan laughed and gently punched her shoulder. I couldn't watch anymore. If I stayed another second, I would suffocate in that room. As I rushed out with my head down, I heard a heavy thud behind me. Ethan cried out in alarm. What's wrong with you? Somebody help. She fainted. The doctor said Ava had been agitated, and the original hematoma had grown larger, requiring immediate surgery. Her parents rushed to the hospital. Ava's mother was heartbroken, grabbing my collar and sobbing. How many times has Ava gotten hurt for you since you were kids? If it weren't for you, she never would have been in that accident. Why would she be in an operating room right now? The fact that she forgot you is fate. Leo Kane, if you have any conscience at all, you'll stay away from her. Ava's father chimed in his agreement. His words were earnest, just like any parent in the world who loves their daughter. I let out a heavy breath and bowed to them. Then just assume I have no conscience, because I can't promise you that. You have more than one daughter, don't you? But Ava only has me. I promised Ava that no matter what happened, I would never leave her. She's only forgotten me for now. She'll remember after the surgery, and if I'm not by her side, she'll be angry with me. Ava's mother was too furious to speak, but conscious of being in a hospital, she just shot me a hateful glare. Time became a completely imperceptible thing. I don't know how long passed, but the light above the operating room finally went out. Ava was wheeled out, her face completely drained of color. Ava, when are you going to remember? I leaned over her bed, whispering in her ear. She frowned. It was still the same familiar face, with delicate features and a fine, straight nose. When she wasn't smiling, her lips would unconsciously turn down at the corners. It made her look unapproachable. I went to see the engagement venue you booked. It's beautiful, I love it. Sorry for ruining the surprise you worked so hard on, but they said they can only hold it for another month, and then the reservation will be canceled. So please hurry up and remember. Ava drifted in and out of consciousness for a week. During that time, she had brief moments of lucidity. Jax insisted that I stand at the front every time, ensuring I was the first person she saw when she opened her eyes. When Ava fully regained consciousness, my anxious heart finally found its place. That was Ava. Even though she hadn't spoken, I could recognize her. That was my Ava. She was weak, but her eyes were clear. How long was I out? Don't worry about that right now. Jax interrupted her. Who am I? Ava's lips curved into a smile. Did I get in a car crash? Or did you get your head bashed in? Jax rolled his eyes. Just answer the question. Jax. Ava's tone was flippant. Happy now? Any other questions? What else do you remember? Ava's father asked in a heavy voice. I remember everything I'm supposed to remember. Ava raised an eyebrow. For example, you'd better send that illegitimate son of yours far away. Her father cursed loudly before storming out. The room fell quiet again. Ava looked around, the excitement in her voice impossible to hide. Where is he? My legs went weak. My heart pounded so hard it felt like it was about to jump out of my throat. In the end, it was Jax who dragged me out and pushed me in front of Ava. I wanted to force a smile. I also wanted to curse her out. All sorts of emotions were warring inside my head. But my face was as stiff as if it were coated in plaster. Ava's calm gaze slid past my face and landed back on Jax. She frowned slightly and pointed at me. Is this your boyfriend? This isn't the time for introductions. Where's Ethan? Are you crazy? Jax jumped as if his tail had been stepped on. Ava, is your brain still not working right? Do you have any idea what you're saying? I'm not. Ava offered me a half-hearted apology. Sorry, my mistake. Ava, this isn't funny at all. As soon as I spoke, I realized I was trembling all over. My throat felt like it was clogged with a waterlogged cotton ball, making it hard to even form words. Ava's face darkened. I don't care who you are. I don't know you. She delivered her verdict. Please leave. An eerie silence fell over the room. Ava didn't seem to notice at all. Her gaze kept searching. A moment later, her eyes lit up. Her brow smoothed, and her lips curved up slightly. Why are you hiding so far away? Following her gaze, Ethan took a hesitant step forward. You still remember me? Ava nodded. Of course. You saved me. Ava, what the hell are you doing? Jax couldn't hold it in any longer and yelled. You even remember this guy? But you forgot Leo. Ava shot him a threatening glare. Watch your attitude. Be more polite to Ethan. The sounds around me seemed to be muffled by a layer of glass, distant and hollow. Everything became unreal. Ava, stop joking around. I'm really going to get angry, Mr. Kane. Ava's voice was hard, as if dipped in ice. I'm certain I don't know you. Why would you say that? You're going to make people misunderstand our relationship. Ava had completely forgotten me. The surgery had a good prognosis in every respect. The physical injuries from the crash were also slowly healing. Her memory was gradually returning. She remembered everything, except me. She had firmly erased me from her memory, leaving not a single trace. 9 years and nothing was left. The doctor said she could remember at any moment, or she might never remember. He ended by gently suggesting she could try psychotherapy. In any case, Ava was finally discharged from the hospital. At the same time, rumors of her passionately pursuing the boy who had saved her in the car crash began to spread like wildfire. She set Ethan up in an apartment at the riverside. A stream of designer watches, cufflinks, and custom-tailored suits were sent his way. She booked an entire amusement park for him, spending the whole day there with him. She ended it by putting on the most spectacular fireworks show just for him. Hearing that Ethan was still a student, she went to great lengths to get him into universities abroad and called in favors to get him letters of recommendation. Everyone said that this time she must be serious. Ava, you really don't remember Leo? Jax tested the waters carefully. Ava was impatient. Why do I have to remember him? But Jax was dumbfounded. But wasn't Leo the one you loved most? You were always talking about him, protecting him. If he so much as frowned, you would do anything for him. Jax swallowed the rest of his sentence under Ava's darkening expression. From a distance, Ava's cold gaze met mine. She curled her lip in a sneer. Anything? For him? Was my taste really that bad back then? Don't say things like that anymore. Ethan will be upset if he hears. Suddenly, I felt like I was the biggest joke in the world, just standing outside the door. Ava, if you ever remember, you're going to regret this. Her only response was a cold laugh. I couldn't listen anymore. I turned to leave, but ran straight into Ethan. He looked a little uncomfortable but still greeted me. A flash of silver glinted on his thick wrist. A bright watch face was visible. I subconsciously touched my own wrist. I once had an identical watch there. It was one that Ava and I had made ourselves during a summer program. When I gave it to her, the surprise in the young girl's eyes was brighter than the stars. No matter what happens, I will never lose this watch. She hadn't lost it. She had just given it to someone else. Perhaps my stare was too obvious. Ethan awkwardly fiddled with the watchband and asked me, "Is something wrong? Leo?" "No." I lowered my head. "I have to go. You should head up." But he called out to me. His face had the look of someone making a final, desperate gamble. "Leo, do you blame me? If Ava remembers you, I'll willingly step aside, but right now she's forgotten you." He bit his lower lip, as if gathering his last bit of courage, and looked at me. "I know this is shameless, but you should forget her too. You two are in the past now." Did I blame him? Blame him for saving Ava? For taking advantage of the situation? Or blame Ava for forgetting me so easily? Blame her for driving back in the rain for my birthday? Or blame the cruel twist of fate that was the car crash? I didn't know. I felt trapped in a bizarre dream, unable to wake up, or like some poor soul who had overslept. Waking up at dusk to find no one around, the whole world having abandoned you. Whether we're in the past or not, as long as you're with her, you'll live every day under the shadow of her potentially remembering everything. Is that the life you want? If so, you're truly pathetic. Looking at Ethan's pale face, I found the whole situation utterly absurd. I walked past him and headed for the door. "Leo, why are you leaving when you just got here?" Jax popped out of nowhere. "I was just coming to see where you were. Why aren't you coming in?" "I'm not feeling well. I'm heading home." "No way. You promised to celebrate my birthday." Jax grabbed my arm, winking at me. I knew what he meant. Before I came to his birthday party, Jax had tried to persuade me, "Give her a little more stimulation, maybe she'll remember. You two have been together for so many years. Are you really just going to give up?" I wasn't going to, so I came. But after hearing Ava say those words with her own mouth, after seeing her casually give our watch to Ethan, I suddenly felt tired. So tired I didn't feel anything anymore. Not resentment, not pain, not sadness, not hope. It had all scattered to the wind. My Ava was gone. But I knew that if she were still here, she wouldn't want to see me trapped in the past. "What did he say to you?" Hearing the familiar voice, I realized the door to the private room had been opened at some point. Ava was standing next to Ethan, looking up at him. Her impeccably tailored women's suit outlined a perfect figure, her tall frame intentionally or unintentionally shielding Ethan. Jax had invited his usual rowdy crew. Now, the astonished whispers of the group seeped through the crack in the door and into my ears. Wait, did Ava really forget Leo? She used to treasure him like the apple of her eye, and now she just forgets him? No way. Even if she forgot, she's bound to remember eventually. Ava paid no attention to the whispers around her. She just focused on Ethan, waiting for him to speak, as if that were the most important thing in her world. Ethan shot me a quick glance and shook his head. But that tiny movement was enough for Ava to guess what had happened. She walked up to me without a hint of politeness. "Mr. Kane, I don't know what you said to him, but there's one thing I strongly agree with. Whatever can be forgotten wasn't important to begin with. If I really loved you that much, how could I have no impression of you at all? I hear you're from the Kane family. While I don't know why I was with you or why we almost got engaged, that's all in the past. I don't have any feelings for you now. It's better if we part ways amicably. Don't you think?" "You're right." I squeezed the words out from my throat. I looked down and pulled out the birthday gift I had prepared for Jax. A photo strip fluttered out and landed at my feet. When photo booths first became popular, I had to beg her for days before Ava reluctantly went with me. In the 4-panel strip, she had a straight face but still bent down to make a heart shape with her hands and posed for all sorts of silly pictures. A pair of shiny high heels stopped next to the photo. Ava bent down and casually picked it up. She stared intently at the 2 intimate figures in the photo. Her brow furrowed almost imperceptibly, and she turned to stare at me. "I remember this photo, Leo Kane. I remember." My heart skipped a beat. I looked at Ava, fighting a wave of dizziness. The bright lights cast a hazy halo around her. Her elegant brow cast a shadow that hid her eyes. Ava curled her lips into a sneer. "You went to all this trouble just to hear me say that?" The thin photo strip spun through the air and landed back at my feet. "Unfortunately for you, I have to disappoint you. Even when you show me these things, I still have no impression of you. It seems our relationship wasn't much to speak of after all." The curve of her lips held a vicious, provocative edge. Every word was like a loud slap across my face. I was in a daze. Maybe the Ava who was with me had been too gentle, making me forget she had this side to her. I squatted down and picked up the photo. The Ava in the picture had a straight face, but her eyes were so gentle. "I'm sorry," I whispered silently in my heart. "I have to give up on you." I took one last look at the 2 people clinging to each other in the photo. I steeled myself and ripped the picture to shreds. I had been squatting for too long. When I stood up, my vision went black. Maybe it was a trick of the light, but for a split second, Ava's face also looked strange. Once the initial dizziness passed, I walked up to her and pointed at Ethan. "That watch was a gift from me. It's mine. If you want to impress someone, at least use your own things." Ethan's face turned bright red as he hurriedly took off the watch and handed it back to me. I took it and threw it, along with the shredded photo, into a nearby trash can. "I have one last thing to say." Ava nodded slightly, assuming a listening posture. I stared at this face. Our first meeting wasn't exactly pleasant. It was at her parents' wedding anniversary party when she was 15. She had just had a fight with her father, and I had just been slapped by my mother, hiding in a corner and crying with my face in my hands. Ava patted the back of my head, handed me a small piece of cake, and casually lectured me. "No matter who it is, when someone hits you, don't just stand there like an idiot. You have to fight back." The skin on my face was still burning. I raised my hand and, without hesitation, slapped her across the face. "Now I'm done talking." Word of what happened at Jax's birthday party spread quickly. Everyone clicked their tongues in sympathy, saying it seemed like this time, Ava and Leo were really over. She once again became one of the most sought-after bachelorettes among the prominent families of Boston. Despite the presence of Ethan, countless people were still eager to form a connection with the Reed family through marriage. Of course, none of this had anything to do with me. Ava's assistant dryly informed me that Ava had canceled our engagement. She urged me to deal with my personal belongings left at her place as soon as possible. "I don't want any of it. You can do what you want with it," I said calmly. Half an hour later, I got a call from my mother, who furiously demanded that I come home immediately. Her voice was crystal clear, even through the speaker. My editor, Linda, looked up from her computer screen with a knowing look. "It's quiet this afternoon, you can head out. That industry summit and business dinner next Wednesday, you're going. The story is yours, too." After graduating from college, I didn't go to grad school. Instead, I took a job at a well-known media group in Boston. Ava used to complain that I was busier than she was every day and that we had less time together. But she still picked me up from work every day, rain or shine. She had every article I wrote professionally printed and framed. Speaking of which, I haven't seen your little girlfriend picking you up lately. I paused. She went to a very far away place. Linda's eyes widened in understanding. Where? Abroad? When is she coming back? Neither. I said vaguely. It was a place that was truly far away. So far that I couldn't go find her, and I didn't know when she would be back. When I got home, my mother, Mrs. Frances Kane, was busy arranging a batch of fresh-cut flowers. When she saw me, her expression soured. What's going on with you and Ava Reed? Why did she suddenly call off the engagement? Do you have any idea that the projects your father's company was working on with the Reeds have been halted? I heard Ava has amnesia. How could something so ridiculous happen? Is she playing you? Leo, whatever is going on, I want you to go find Ava right now. Beg her not to call off the engagement. She grew more agitated as she spoke, snapping the stem of a spray rose. I'm not going. Ava calling me a Kane family son wasn't entirely accurate. 2 months after I was born, Frances discovered that my biological father had cheated on her multiple times during her pregnancy. Unable to tolerate the betrayal, she divorced him immediately. Raising a baby alone was by no means easy. When she was on the verge of collapse, she would curse my irresponsible father, curse fate, and curse me. So when she took my hand and told me to call Jack Kane Dad, I was genuinely happy for her. In her 2nd year of marriage to the Kanes, she gave birth to Chris. At first, she told me to get along with my little brother and to protect him. She tearfully promised to love me as much as she loved Chris. I don't know when it started, but everything changed. She would slap me in a fit of rage if Chris fell while he was alone with me. She would move my room to the storage closet because Chris said he didn't want to see me. When I was 9, Jack, Frances, and Chris spent the day at an amusement park. When they came back that evening, Chris was sleeping soundly on Frances's shoulder. She smiled and turned her face to accept a kiss from Jack. I waited and waited, watching the clock tick past midnight. But the words happy birthday never came. The mother who had belonged to me had completely disappeared from this world. From that day on, I never celebrated my birthday again. Until I met Ava. She sighed and gently ruffled my hair. You have me. I'll never miss one of your birthdays again. After I got together with Ava, Frances's attitude toward me also underwent a subtle change. It was as if, in her eyes, I had started to become useful. She would ask if I was doing okay. She would call me back to the Kane house for dinner on holidays, and occasionally 1 or 2 of my old favorite dishes would appear on the table. Jack Kane had a small company, and by leveraging Ava's name and the Reed Corporation, he landed a number of small projects. If this makes your mom treat you a little better, then it doesn't matter. When Ava said this, she squinted slightly, as if looking at something through me. Her parents had a typical marriage of convenience. After she was born, they both found new lovers on the side. They only maintained the facade of a loving couple in front of others. Perhaps she had also yearned for something more, had also rebelled. Perhaps she had also thought that as long as it earned her parents' attention, any means were justified. I didn't know, but every time she said that, I would throw myself into her arms and give her a huge hug. She would hold me and whisper in my ear, Leo, let's get married. Once we're married, we'll have our own home. Home. A word that was incredibly alluring yet completely foreign to me. Now I stood in Frances's house and watched coldly as she pointed a finger at me in anger. What gives you the right not to go? Her anger flared even more. She grabbed the flowers from the table and threw them at my head. Are you trying to ruin your father's company? How could I have such a heartless child? Hasn't your father been good to you? Why won't you help him? Everyone knew you were with Ava Reed. And now what? You've been dumped and sent packing. What will people think? Do you have any shame? The sharp edges of the leaves cut my exposed skin. The spicy scent of the plants filled my nostrils. I turned my head, grabbed the flower stems from Frances's hand, and yanked hard. The tender stalks snapped across her palm, drawing a line of blood beads. She hissed in pain and glared at me. What do you think you're doing? I didn't want anything. I no longer wanted to beg for the scraps of motherly love that might fall through the cracks of her fingers. Ava and I are done. Stop going to her and stop coming to me. I looked up and gave her one last look. I'm never coming back. I don't owe the Canes anything. What happens to Jack's business has nothing to do with me. Francis roared, Leo, have you lost your mind? Then just assume I've lost my mind. You'd abandon your own mother for a woman? You think you're so great, but you still got dumped by a woman. A display cabinet crashed to the floor, scattering its contents in a mess. Francis's unfinished sentence turned into a scream. I pulled my hand back and smiled at her. Keep talking. Let's see what I smash next. Furious and afraid, Francis screamed at me to get out of the Cane house. Once I was out the main door, I started walking down the straight road, my pace quickening. I was leaving some lingering shadows far behind me. Ava had walked this road with me countless times. Walking it alone now didn't feel so bad. The next time I saw Ava was at the business dinner on Wednesday. My head was spinning, and I just wanted to take a few photos and get out of there. I was thinking about what to order for a late-night snack when someone blocked my path. I slowly looked up. I recognized the person blocking me. It was Dylan, the son of the Dubois family, who had never gotten along with me. His eyes scanned me up and down, and a smirk played on his lips. Heard you got dumped by Ava Reed. How pathetic. Why was this the only thing anyone in the world could say to me? A man should know his place and not covet things that don't belong to him, don't you think? Are you a cop? What does anyone's place have to do with you? What did you just say? Dylan's brow furrowed, and he grabbed my camera. Suddenly, he gave a strange smile, leaned in close, and whispered, You don't know, do you? Ava's parents want to arrange a marriage for her, and she hasn't said no. Whether it's you or the guy who saved her, neither of you belong here. You think you can climb the social ladder by latching onto some woman? I can't stand people like you. Poor to the bone but pretending to be all high and mighty. Do you think she still gives a damn about you? As he finished speaking, he raised his hand high. Before the sharp slap could land, the familiar, cool scent of gardenias enveloped me. A noticeable warmth pressed against my back. Someone had grabbed Dylan's wrist. Ava's cool, lazy voice entered my ear. When someone tries to hit you, you just stand there and take it. Dylan's face went pale. Ava gave him a lazy glance and asked me, How do you want to handle him? Hit him back? I shook my head. TSK. Ava waved her hand impatiently, signaling for Dylan to leave. Mr. Cane, you don't have to act so pitiful in front of me. She looked me over. Trying to get my attention with such a pathetic trick? What are you trying to say? She looked at me and tilted her head. I followed her out to the terrace. The noisy chatter of the banquet hall was sealed behind the glass doors. A gentle evening breeze blew toward us, carrying the faint scent of flowers and trees. Ava was the first to break the silence. Her voice was carried far away by the wind. Jax and some other people, they keep saying how much I used to love you. It's becoming a problem. Her searching gaze lingered on my face. Jax told me that while I was in the accident, you were looking for me day and night, and you got hurt a lot. If you have a problem, you should talk to them. Ethan is really bothered by this. And if my future fiancé hears about it, that would also be a problem. I snapped my head up, unable to believe what I was hearing. Fiancé? Are you saying you're tangled up with Ethan while you also have a fiancé? That's my private business. Ava looked displeased. If necessary, I hope we don't see each other again. Ms. Reed. I took a step back and looked her straight in the eye. I'm here for work today. If your memory serves you correctly, you were the one who approached me just now. Could losing your memory really change a person this much? Or had I never really known Ava at all? I'm the one who should be saying that. I hope you never appear in front of me again. And another thing, seeing what you've become, I'd rather have never known you at all. Ava's brow furrowed tightly. Her face was grim. Ignoring her, I turned and walked away. Shortly after the industry summit, I received a notice of transfer. Linda rested her chin on her hand and smiled at me. The social issues desk has been short-staffed. Why don't you go help out? You'll be too busy to overthink things. So, think you can handle it? I nodded firmly. My new mentor, Carla, was a woman in her 40s, quiet and reserved. She had been an investigative journalist in her early years, known for her sharp reporting style. After following her for over 6 months, I finally understood Linda's meaningful smile. The most dangerous time, we went deep into a rural town to investigate a chemical company illegally dumping wastewater. Just as we were about to leave, we were surrounded by a group of thugs. Carla fought to protect me so I could get away with the evidence, and she ended up with a broken rib. Fortunately, after overcoming many obstacles, the report was finally published. The company involved was immediately shut down and held accountable, and a special task force was set up to investigate the matter thoroughly. At the celebration dinner afterward, Carla rubbed her face and said, "When I first saw you, I thought you were just a soft-spoken kid. I figured you'd last 2 days before you couldn't take it and ran." Someone teased, "Does Leo have a girlfriend?" If she knew about this, she'd be worried sick. I laughed along with them. Lately, I had been so busy and disheveled every day that I had forgotten how long it had been since I last thought of Ava. After a few drinks, everyone started casually chatting about recent news. I heard the Reed family is in chaos right now. The eldest daughter, the one who was in that car crash, she suddenly fired a bunch of people from the company. A lot of old employees couldn't take it and are protesting at the headquarters every day. I heard it's because her parents tried to put their illegitimate son in the company, and he tried to seize power, which caused all this drama. The Reed couple is busy with divorce and dividing assets now. I've met their eldest daughter before. My impression was that she wasn't this ruthless. Did a car crash really change her personality that much? Did she get a concussion and turn into a business prodigy? That's where you're wrong. She fell for some guy who saved her in the crash, but her parents are forcing her into an arranged marriage and won't let the guy in the family. So now she's going to war for her man. You know? The people at the table laughed knowingly. After a few more drinks, we left. I stood by the road, letting the breeze sober me up. Carla walked over and patted my shoulder. "Leo, that person has been watching you for a while. Do you know her?" I followed her gaze. The twilight was dim. Against the backdrop of a magnificent sunset, at the boundary between light and shadow, a streetlight silhouetted a tall figure. Ava was staring at me, her gaze dark. When her eyes met mine, her feet shifted slightly. I looked away. "I don't know her. Are you being stalked?" Carla was alarmed. "Then come with me, I'll give you a ride home." I followed her into the car. As the car drove away, I could still see Ava in the rearview mirror, standing in the same spot, watching me from a distance. After a short break in Boston, I followed Carla to a new assignment. Before I left, Jax called. He hemmed and hawed, asking where I was going and when I'd be back. "Why are you asking?" He hesitated. "Isn't it good to stay in Boston? If you're still heartbroken over Ava," I cut him off. "It has nothing to do with her. Jax, thanks for caring about me. But Ava and I are over. Whatever I do now, it's not for her. It's because I want to." There was a brief silence on the other end of the line. Then the call was abruptly disconnected. A couple of days ago, Carla received a tip from an informant. It suggested that an entertainment club in a neighboring city was suspected of forcing minors to engage in paid companionship. We were going there this time to gather more evidence. We wanted to map out the chain of profit, interview the victims, and write a feature story. We checked into a hotel near the club. For several days in a row, I had a vague feeling that someone was following me. Carla laughed and said I was being paranoid. She sent me a location, the address of the latest interviewee she had contacted. It was in a rundown urban village in the old part of the city. When I got out of the taxi, I was met with the sight of dilapidated old buildings. The paint was peeling off the walls, and a puddle of muddy water had collected in front of the building entrance. The ground was a mix of wastewater dumped by residents, emitting a foul stench. Just as I walked through the iron gate, I heard a girl's sharp screams from inside the building. The next second, a girl with stringy, yellow hair came charging down the stairs. "Mia!" Recognizing her, I cried out. During my undercover work, I had seen her at the club a few times. So she was the new interviewee. Before I could react, A middle-aged man holding a kitchen knife rushed down the stairs after her. Mia dodged and hid behind me. The man pointed the tip of the knife at me. "Who are you? Get out of the way if you don't want to die. Carl, if you have the guts, then just kill me. If you don't, I'll kill you sooner or later." Mia peeked out from behind me, yelling back without any sign of backing down. The man, Carl, his jowls trembling with rage, lunged forward with the knife. I tried to stay calm and held up my phone. "Don't come any closer. Put the knife down, or I'm calling the police right now." Carl spat on the ground and said viciously, "Where did you come from, you little punk? I'm disciplining my own kid. What's it to you? What kind of father are you? What kind of father in the world makes his own daughter sell herself? Why don't you go sell yourself? You shut up too." Caught in the middle, I turned my head and yelled at Mia in a low voice. She pouted but fell silent. With Mia in tow, I slowly backed away, step by step. Out of the corner of my eye, I spotted a fire poker leaning against the wall. I grabbed it with one hand and finally managed to dial 911 with the other. Noticing my movement, Carl suddenly became agitated. He let out a low growl and charged at me with the knife raised. In that split second, I don't know where I found such immense strength. I gripped the poker with both hands and brought it down hard on the wrist of his knife-wielding hand. I could almost hear the sickening crack of his radius bone breaking. Carl screamed in agony, and the knife clattered to the ground. Carl ended up with a minor fracture in his arm. Mia was taken away and placed in the care of community workers. After giving my statement, I walked out of the police station. As the cold wind hit me, I suddenly realized my entire body was drained of strength. As I walked down the steps, my legs gave out and I was about to fall. A pair of cool, slender hands caught my elbows, taking most of my weight. I had a feeling and looked up. Ava was standing beside me, her face dark. Her thin lips were pressed tightly together, her dark pupils fixed on me, roiling with anger. When her eyes met mine, she closed them for a moment, her chest rising and falling heavily. "What are you doing here?" I asked instinctively. Ava's face remained cold. She grabbed my wrist and pulled me toward the street. A black Bentley was parked there. As the car door slammed shut, she seemed unable to control her anger any longer. Her knuckles turned white as she gripped the steering wheel. "Leo, do you have a brain? Do you think you're some kind of hero? That guy had a knife. I'm taking you back to the hotel right now to pack your things. You're going back to Boston immediately. Your job is too dangerous. I'm giving you two choices. Either you quit or I'll make you quit." Silence fermented in the enclosed space of the car. A realization, growing clearer by the second, surfaced in my mind. I sucked in a breath. "Ava, you remember, don't you?" Ava froze. Like a rusted machine, she gave a stiff, jerky nod. The immense shock made my vision go white. It felt like just a short while ago, I was fantasizing and hoping she would regain her memory. Yet now that the day had finally come, I wasn't as ecstatic as I had imagined. Instead, a subtle sense of bewilderment rose within me. It was like receiving a long-awaited gift that had arrived far too late, or taking a trip that had been postponed for 20 years. The excitement had long been worn away by the daily wait, leaving only the unease of having my life disrupted. "When did it happen?" Ava didn't answer. She sighed and said earnestly, "I'm sorry, Leo. I made you suffer." I turned my head away. "Did my parents give you a hard time?" Ava slowly started the car. "I'm in charge of the Reed Corporation now. Leo, don't worry. From now on, no one will stand in our way." Streetlights cast moving shadows across her face through the car window. "What about Ethan? And what about your fiancé?" She was stunned for a moment. She explained frantically, "Neither of them will be a problem." Somehow, I detected a hint of relief in her tone. "Leo, believe me, nothing happened between me and Ethan. He took a sum of money from me and has already left Boston. As for the arranged marriage fiancé, we never even got to the point of an engagement." I glanced outside and saw the familiar outline of the club. "You can stop here." My thoughts were in turmoil. I just wanted to get away quickly. Ava's whole body trembled. "Leo, you can't forgive me?" "I didn't want to forget you either. If I really hurt you, you can hit me, yell at me, make me do anything, just don't leave me. She hurriedly pulled the car over to the side of the road, her eyes red as she looked at me. Leo, come back to Boston with me. I still owe you an engagement party. We'll get engaged as soon as we get back. No, we'll get married right away. Ava, I had to interrupt her. I'm not going back to Boston with you. I still have work to do. Ava became my shadow. Wherever I went, no matter how late, she would follow me silently, not too close, not too far. Her presence was too strong to ignore. Because of Carl, my relationship with Mia grew much closer. She cooperated fully with the interview and even persuaded a few of her friends to provide more information. One day, she came to me, overjoyed. She said she had received assistance from a non-profit organization. They were providing her with free legal support to help her break free from Carl's control, paying for her mother's medical expenses, and also providing her with a place to live and covering her tuition and living expenses from high school through college. It's not just me, my friends got help too. I don't know who the kind person is. As she spoke, she winked and gestured with her eyes toward the space behind me. Ava was holding 2 small plates of cake, looking at me with a hopeful expression. Mia jumped up from her chair. Oh, I just remembered I have plans. You two talk, Leo. Ava carefully set the cake down, studying my expression. I felt a little helpless. Sit down. Let's talk. Her eyes lit up. After sitting down, just as she had countless times before, she scooped up a piece of cake with a small spoon and brought it to my lips. When I didn't move, she gave a bitter smile. Leo, I was wrong before. I missed too much. Leo, are you willing to give me another chance to get to know you again? Let me make up for the mistakes I made while I had amnesia. But, Ava, I've already moved on. Avoiding her eyes, I managed to squeeze out the words. The air around us instantly thinned. Ava stared at me, stunned. There's one thing you said that was very true. If a memory is truly important, if a person is truly loved, why would you forget? Could it be that we both misunderstood our place in each other's hearts? My mind was a mess. I tried to untangle the threads to express myself more clearly. All this time, I was the one relying on you. It seems like you were passively and habitually playing the role of the protector. Could it be that you were tired of it too, and that's why you forgot me? That thought nearly drove me crazy while you had amnesia. That's why I followed Carla all over the country. I tried to use busyness to numb the pain. At first, I couldn't stop thinking about you. When interview subjects rejected me or yelled in my face, when my articles were torn apart, when I was threatened to delete sensitive footage I'd captured, surrounded with my safety at risk. I fantasized countless times that you would suddenly appear, just like when I was 15, and comfort me. But no one came. No one was coming. I had endured so many painful, confusing nights alone, until I forged a new me from them. I've moved on. You should move on too. I looked into Ava's eyes and said seriously, but her face grew paler and paler, like a wisp of smoke about to dissipate. I was about to say more, but she suddenly stood up. Don't say any more. I'll take you back to the hotel. You need to rest. She stumbled out, her steps hurried. As she stumbled, something spun out of the inner pocket of her suit jacket and fluttered to the ground. She froze. Her entire body began to tremble. Lying quietly at my feet was that photo booth strip, the one that had been torn to shreds and thrown away. It was like a bolt of lightning, illuminating a neglected corner of my mind. I even managed a small laugh. Ava, there's a question you've never answered for me. When did you remember? The last thing Ava remembered about the car crash that nearly killed her was the car spinning out of control, tumbling down the cliff face, and crashing against the rocks. It felt like someone had drilled a hole in her head and was rummaging around inside. Broken, scattered fragments flashed through her mind. Finally, it settled on a pair of tear-filled eyes belonging to Leo Kane. Don't cry. Ava's eyes flew open. A sharp pain from her heart seemed to be a reminder of some terrible mistake she had made. She had actually forgotten Leo? How could she? A thin layer of cold sweat broke out on her skin. The therapist handed her a glass of warm water. How are you feeling? A little better? She took the water and drank it all in one gulp. She remembered everything. including how she had treated Leo during the time she had completely lost her memory, accidentally hurting him, coldly telling him to get lost, saying he was Jax's boyfriend. And Ethan, breathing became the hardest thing to do. Every breath was accompanied by a long, drawn-out pain. She wanted to rush to Leo immediately and confess her faults, but she couldn't. Her assistant brought the accident report. As she had suspected, the brakes had been tampered with before the crash. She quickly zeroed in on the culprits. It had to be the illegitimate children her father kept on the side. She couldn't imagine anyone else. During the time she was missing and had amnesia, someone couldn't wait any longer and had started to show their claws. She thought of a small incident from a long time ago. When Leo had just started his job, he was in a minor traffic accident. After that, no matter how late it was or how busy she was, she always had to pick him up herself to feel at ease. What if that hadn't been an accident? She locked herself in her room and thought for an entire night. Finally, she decided to play along with the mistake. On one hand, she pretended to obediently accept the marriage candidates her parents chose for her. Behind their backs, she began acquiring shares from minor stockholders. On the other hand, she acted as if she were deeply in love with Ethan. She hoped this would divert the attention of her enemies. Everything went according to her plan, but she had underestimated Leo's effect on her. At Jax's birthday party, the moment she saw him, she almost wanted to surrender. She said the most hurtful things she could think of. She saw the look in Leo's eyes change from hope to disappointment. His eyes, which were usually full of laughter, were now filled with a dark cloud, raining a storm that would never stop. After the party, she made an excuse to go back. She spent the entire night rummaging through the trash. The watch Leo had made for her was nowhere to be found. Only the shredded pieces of the photo strip remained. With trembling hands, she pieced them back together. Countless cracks now ran between the two intimate figures. It was like a sinister prophecy. A tsunami of panic, unlike anything she had ever felt, engulfed her. She comforted herself. Everything she was doing now was to clear the obstacles for their future. The only thing she needed to do now was to resolve the hidden dangers around her as quickly as possible. Leo would understand her. He would always stand by her side unconditionally. But things were gradually slipping out of her control. The disputes within the Reed Corporation were settled smoothly. The few incompetent, illegitimate children were dealt with, and it was unlikely they would ever set foot in Boston again. Her hypocritical parents were busy with their divorce and couldn't interfere with her. Ethan, however, keenly pieced together the truth. Unwilling to be used, he began to emotionally and financially blackmail Ava. To make him disappear completely, Ava gave him a huge sum of money. Ethan took it. Before leaving, he left her with a sarcastic remark. "Ava, I really regret saving you. You would have been better off dying in the ocean. You think you can win Leo back? He'll just say the same thing I'm saying." She rubbed her slapped, swollen cheek, smiled, and asked him to leave. She had met Leo when she was 15. She had spent nearly half her life with him. She was the person who knew him best. He was patient, kind, and soft-hearted. Most importantly, he loved her, depended on her, and couldn't live without her. She had always firmly believed this, until she saw him at a dinner with his colleagues. He had changed a lot. The dark cloud that used to hang around him had dissipated. His eyes now held something that could be called resilience. When he saw her, his expression was as calm as if he were looking at any other stranger in the world. Ava slowly began to realize something. "Seems I really did push him away with my own hands." In the coffee shop, Mia was stealing her 12th glance at me. "Is there something you want to say?" Mia scratched her head. "Nothing. It's just Leo, that charity assistance. What, did they cancel it?" "No." Mia held it in for a long time. "But, isn't this something your ex-girlfriend set up? If I accept it, is that a bad look? If she hasn't canceled it, then you should accept it. What's between us has nothing to do with you. You need to seize this opportunity and not make the wrong choice again." Mia covered her ears and groaned for a moment, then jutted her chin toward the window. "She's just been standing there. Let her. I'm going back to Boston. I told Mia. The interviews were mostly done, and the remaining work didn't require me to stay here. Mia looked very reluctant to see me go. She leaned in and hugged me, muttering, "I'll definitely get into a school in Boston. You better not forget me." "I won't." Mia's eyes darted around, and she added, "That woman is always bothering you. How about I get a few guys to throw a sack over her head and beat her up?" "Ich lernte her." Fine, I'll be a law-abiding citizen, I get it." Even though she said that, she looked like she hadn't given up on the idea. After a moment's thought, I took out my phone. From dealing with Carl and for interview purposes, I had added the contact information of a few police officers. I sent a message and my location to one of them from memory. "Officer Chun, I'm being followed. Are you able to come over?" Officer Chun arrived quickly. When he saw me, his tense expression relaxed slightly. "Tell me the details." I pointed out the window. Ava was staring at me intently. When she saw the police officer, a flicker of shock crossed her face. Then, as if she realized something, she rushed in anxiously, just in time to hear the last few sentences of my conversation with Officer Chun. "She's my ex-girlfriend. She's been following me recently, and it's causing a lot of distress in my life and work." I showed Officer Chun several videos on my phone. They were all evidence of her following me at various times and places. Officer Chun watched with a frown. He patted my shoulder reassuringly. "Don't worry, we'll handle it. You can go now." "Leo." Ava started to say something, her eyes pleading with me. I quickened my pace and walked past her. The next time I saw Ava was a month later. I had just finished the feature story on Mia. As soon as the news broke, it caused a huge public outcry. I was busy following up with various departments and organizations on subsequent regulatory matters. I was working overtime until all hours of the night. It was on one of those late nights after work that Ava appeared downstairs from my office. Her face was ashen, and she was so thin that her cheekbones stuck out. She looked like a ghost about to dissipate. I walked past her without a second glance. But she suddenly stepped in front of me. "Leo, can we talk? There's nothing for us to talk about. A couple of days ago, I had a sudden headache and fainted. I went to the hospital for a checkup, and the doctor said there was a small blood clot left over from the previous surgery. It's gotten bigger and is pressing on a nerve, and it could rupture at any time." An image of Ava lying weakly in her hospital bed after the first surgery flashed before my eyes. After that, everything had changed. "Is that so? Then you should go to the hospital. Don't die in front of me." The past was always unpleasant. I spoke coldly. Ava gave a bitter smile. "Do we have to talk to each other like this?" It was like a spark falling on dry grass. It easily ignited the anger in my heart. "Then how should I talk to you? Should I sing praises of your flawless performance, or applaud your patience and foresight? Do I need to get on my knees and thank you for the sacrifices you made for our future?" Ava put on that same hurt expression again. "Leo, I never thought of it that way." "Yeah, you didn't think. You just acted." I crossed my arms and looked coldly at Ava, her eyes rimmed with red. "When you saw me suffering because of your amnesia, what were you thinking? Did you think I was hopelessly in love with you? Did you think I was so pathetic that I couldn't live without you? Every time I think about how you were faking your amnesia, about how I tried every trick in the book to make you remember while you just sat back and watched me fall apart, I feel sick. Do you think you're some kind of tragic hero? No, Ava. You're selfish, hypocritical, and cold-blooded. What are you doing now? Looking for sympathy? Or reminding me that you're in this miserable state because of me? Well, do you know what I want to say? Ava, you would have been better off dying in that car crash." I had never seen such an expression on someone's face before. It was as if, in an instant, the very thing that kept her alive had simply drifted away from her. I stared into her eyes and finished my sentence, word by word. "If you had died in that crash, at least you would have lived on in my heart. So don't ever show your face to me again." I left Boston on my birthday, headed for my next destination. Linda said that the articles I had written had all been very well received, and she intended to groom me as her successor. "Don't waste your time being sad over that woman. Work will never betray you." I shot her a look. Is that your reason for sending me to do research in a remote mountain village in Appalachia? Linda smiled innocently. The airport was bustling with people. For a moment, I almost thought I saw Ava's figure. But she should be busy with her medical treatments and cleaning up her mess right now. She had been too eager to take control of the Reed Corporation, too busy eliminating her rivals. After so many years of rapid growth, a large company like that was bound to have some skeletons in its closet. The brutal layoffs would inevitably lead to some family tragedies. I just did some honest reporting. The resulting public outcry and stock market volatility were beyond my control. The plane took off. Outside the window was the sky, getting higher and farther away. A bright new world was waiting for me to explore. A month later, I received a call from Jax. He told me grimly that Ava was dead. Her assistant was the first to notice she was missing. Her last known location was at the edge of the cliff where the crash had happened. The rescue team found her suicide note at the bottom of the cliff. Footprints at the scene indicated that she had walked into the sea on her own. In her will, she named me as her sole heir. She also left a letter for you. Do you want to see it? No. I lowered my voice. And I won't be going to her funeral. Please send a bouquet of flowers for me. In the distance, the mountains were shrouded in a rising white mist, like a giant, sleeping beast. Ava Reed loves Leo Kane, for all of her life, with all of her heart. It was as if I could hear the voice of that sincere young girl from years ago. But the wind blew, and it dissipated like mist. The mountains were often foggy, and the rain was constant. But the sun would always break through.